Hey guys, I am back to do a quick video on the Ready to Love Season 2 Reunion Part 2. I will start with an analysis on Lying London.
He's a terrible
But
kisser.
why would you?
He's
Why
a
would
terrible
you say?
liar.
But why would you
He
want
has
to
a
see?
big belly.
But
He doesn't
why?
take care of his body.
Tie that into the love square, including him, Devyne, Alexis, and Brent. And then if I get around to it, or if I don't cover everything within those two parts, I'll do a quick glossing over of the reunion as a whole. Now, is it just me, or is London a master of linguistic gymnastics? Ladies, watch out for men like London who can talk circles around you if you let him. There were multiple parts during the reunion where London was just stringing words together that were so not applicable to the situation at hand. So they did a flashback of when London met one of Devyne's friends, and she asked London, can you see yourself being with Devyne? And London goes, I wouldn't be sitting here if I couldn't.
Could you see yourself being with my girl?
I wouldn't be sitting here if I couldn't.
Could you see yourself being with the other young lady that you're entertaining?
It's a possibility.
And it's responses like those that set my radar off, like, okay, this is somebody who was disingenuous, and this is someone who wants to play the field. This is someone who can't just be upfront and honest about how they really feel, because what does that even mean when you say, well, I wouldn't be sitting here if I couldn't? Like, would it kill you just to be upfront and honest? London is good at deflecting. He is good at getting the heat up off of him. There was a moment when it was London, Devyne, Alexis, and Brent. They were all sitting, on the couches, and it was like their segment. And London just turns to Devyne, and he's going on about how she's his rock, and he's been there, and it's about safety and security. That's what men want. And I'm just like, London. Like, what are you talking about, right? London is so crafty in his ability to say semi-sentimental things, and even skillful enough to look you in your eye, right? Because usually that's when you can tell a man is lying, when he's unable to look you in your eye, when he's speaking, or when you ask him a question and he's trying to give you an answer. He's unable to look you in your eye, but London is so skilled at the art of lying that he can even look you in your eye and feed you the BS. And he just kept doing this odd thing of bringing up the house. Oh, and I got a new house. And I'm just like, what does that have to do with anything, London? What does that have to do with you kissing Alexis at the tow truck? Like, what? So watch out for men like London, because the purpose is to pacify you. When he starts stringing words together and talking about safety and security and da-da-da-da-da, it's to pacify you. It's to give you just enough to keep you holding on, and you have to watch out for that. There was a segment where Alexis was like, you know what, London, if you're not going to admit to the kiss, at least admit to the fact that we were at Siva's. And there was, some more back and forth, and London finally said, no, we weren't there.
So we did not meet at
And
it's one thing to deny the kiss,
okay
but
with
we
that,
didn't meet
that's
at
cool.
Civis. We did not meet at Civis.
If he's okay with that, then that's cool.
Wait, we did not meet at all.
No.
And then he went on to say, you're trying to attack my character and the way that I was raised. And it's just like, no one's attacking your character. This is the character that you, in fact, presented on the show, right? We know that the camera can only use what you give it. So this is the person that you created. This is the person, the image that you've allowed us to see, that you are unable to be transparent. You are unable to be honest. You like to straddle the fence. You like to talk about, let's just see where things go. Let's keep it organic, right? Unable to really just put your foot down and declare what it is that you want, right? Because men love to have options. And as I said in my previous video on Ready to Love, men like to be deciders. They like to have options. They like to be in control, be dominant. And while I do have my gripes with Alexis, she was holding London's feet to the fire, and I respected her for that. When London started going, down the rabbit hole of, I was raised to be respectful and care about people's feelings, and so that's why I just kind of let things just flow. And Alexis was like, no, this is a process of trying to find love. A part of the process is making the tough decisions of letting someone know, hey, like, I'm not into you, or I want to pursue something else, right? It's about being transparent and being honest. Two things that London lacks. And so what concerned me so much with Devyne is her inability to see that London was not being truthful, right? Or do you guys think that Devyne knows and it's just being oblivious intentionally? Like, I can't really figure out why Devyne was just so, like, willing to believe London, and London can really cast a spell on you if you're unable to really understand what he's all about. Men who just feed you words, right? And they smile at the end of it and they look you in your eye. You got to be careful for the London types out there. He is truly the definition of a player on and off the field, okay? Too old for the games. Now, as far as Brent, Brent almost gave me nothing to work with. He was so silent throughout the reunion. His head was down, his eyes were to the ground. You can just tell that Brent wasn't present. And Brent is sort of like me in situations where, I just don't want nothing to do with it. If it's drama, if it's issue, I would prefer to just be left out of it. I want to sit over here and mind my business and just have my peace. It's almost as if Brent and Alexis had a conversation prior to the show where Alexis was like, you know what, let me do the talking and you just sit there. Because she wants to be in control of her narrative, which I can respect as well. One moment that stood out was when Christina J was like, Alexis had said, Brent and I were together, things were fine. And Christina J said, are they? Like, are you all together? And again, Alexis maintaining in control and not giving Brent the opportunity to speak up, not even that Brent would want to, but again, just staying in control of what their narrative is. Who's asking? Who wants to know? Like, she was, about to get rowdy. And Christina J was like, I'm the person who asked. I want to know. Alexis maintains that, okay, yeah, we're dating. And then Christina, holding Brent's feet to the fire, was like, Brent, are y'all dating? Are y'all together? And so finally Brent, lifts his head up and gets his eyes off the ground. And he's like, no, we're dating.
Brent, are y'all together?
We're dating.
Oh.
We're dating.
That's the same. Yeah.
We're
that's
dating.
not together.
Okay.
And it was just like, I don't feel that response was genuine. It felt like Brent was forced to say that, right? It's almost like Alexis had him on a leash and he was unable to really say his piece. And this theory is further supported by when it was him, Kimber, and I believe Angie, they were backstage, and Kimber or one of the ladies asked, are you okay? And he was like, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And so with Brent not being okay, and my chronology might be a little out of order, but with Brent saying, no, I'm not okay, in another scene when Tommy asks him, the consensus is that you were Alexis's second choice, and Brent goes, no, I don't believe I was. Like, it's not adding up. Like, huh? Like, what do you mean? And Kimber and Jimmy's face when Brent said, no, I don't think I'm Alexis's second choice, was me precisely. Like, okay, whatever, if that's what you want us to believe. But it definitely feels like they were trying to save face, and more so on Alexis's part. She was trying to save face in front of Devyne in London. She didn't want to make it seem like what Brent and her had was illegitimate. You know what I mean? She just wanted to save face and be in control of her narrative. And while the couples were trying to save face in their words, I picked up on the body language. Alexis had her hand on Brent's knee or thigh, and Devyne had her hand on London's knee or thigh. But the men did not reciprocate the affection, right? Their hands were folded up. So everyone is talking about how, things are great and we're just gonna, be in the moment and there aren't any titles. But the body language said otherwise. The body language said that the women were more so trying to salvage whatever was left, while the men were just kind of there. And just a really quick tidbit on the not wanting to put titles on things that Alexis was saying in response to Tommy's question about, the update on where the couples are, the reason why people don't put titles on relationships is to absolve each party of accountability, right? You can't hold somebody accountable if you all are not officially together, or at least that's the new wave, the new age of relationships, right? You can't hold me accountable to how I make you feel if we're not together. So that whole thing about the titles is a whole nother video of how do we define talking versus dating versus putting a title on things versus being official. That I think that whole realm is so unclear. And of course it's subjective and it depends on the people involved in the relationship. But, when Alexis said, yeah, Brent and I are dating, and Christina J was like, well, that's not being together. You know what I mean? It's just a larger conversation that needs to be had as to how people do relationships in this new time. Overall, Brent didn't really give me too much. I do appreciate him holding himself responsible for calling Aisha aggressive when she wasn't being aggressive, right? She was doing what she was there to do, right? She was expressing interest. Why? Because she's ready to love. And so the ladies were really about to hit on such a great topic of the double standard when it comes to finding love in these sort of competitive game show, reality TV sort of scenarios, where when the woman wants to expand her options and explore different men, it's an issue. She's aggressive. She's not loyal. You know what I mean? She's, it's looked down upon, except for when Alexis does it. But when the men do it, it's okay. It's okay for Mario to straddle the fence between Tandy and Reva. It's okay for London to straddle the fence between Alexis and Devyne. But when Aisha does it, and all she did was what the men did, right? She went from Brent to Mario, and that was it. She's aggressive, and nobody's attracted to that. And she's sitting on this person's lap, and she's in that person's face, right? But what is the difference between her actions and the actions of the men, right? There is truly a double standard when it comes to women in the exploratory stage and when it comes to men in the exploratory stage. And these double standards are just rooted in our society and how men themselves can't even see the hypocrisy. They just exist, blissfully unaware of how they are perpetuating inequalities in our society. And it is all rooted in that, y'all know how I feel about the ride or die thing, but it is all rooted in that ride or die mentality that women especially are expected to be loyal, undyingly loyal, blindly loyal. You know what I mean? Even when we're just trying to get to know each other. So I thought that the ladies were hitting on a great point, and I was so frustrated that there's just never enough time to really flesh through these topics. But it was great. I was just like, ladies, great job for discussing that, because that really got on my last nerve. And while I'm on Aisha, I just want to say congratulations to her and Mike. They're a beautiful couple. I'm so happy that they found each other. And while I didn't particularly care for Mike on the show, I did love when he was able to admit that the one weekend Aisha didn't come over, he was in his feelings, and, he really wanted to spend time with her, because I think it's a mark of a man who is truly into you when he wants to spend every moment with you. Now, how mad he got is up, for question. You don't need to necessarily pout and do all of that. But I love their relationship. I'm so happy for them, and I wish them all the best. If I could just jump back to Devyne, she didn't really give me too much throughout the reunion. She didn't really say too much. Again, like I stated before, I was still a little puzzled by how she just seems to blindly accept whatever it is London says. I did appreciate her ability to take an introspective look at how she kind of clung on to London too quickly and kind of put herself in that ride or die space of just being there for London, even while he was pursuing Alexis, right? Or giving Alexis a different story than he was giving Devyne. She articulated my point, actually, from my previous Ready to Love video about how it's not in your best interest to be ride or die, right? It's not in your best interest to be in a man's back pocket, right? He may abuse you, use you and abuse you, and take advantage of your loyalty, of said loyalty. So Again, I think that Devyne just needs to let London go. It's very clear that Alexis and London still have a connection, still have chemistry. When Devyne was saying that the reason she doesn't believe they kissed is because they were kind of clashing at the dinner table or whatever, and she didn't see how a kiss could happen. And I'm like, Devyne, honey, that's passion. The way that London and Alexis go back and forth with each other, honey, that's passion. There's passion there. There's chemistry there. You know what I mean?
Did you kiss her, London?
No.
No.
Look me in my eyes. Babe.
No.
Ah! Wow. Stone cold liar.
So, absolutely. That might even be the best possible scenario for a kiss to happen when you're going back and forth with someone and y'all are alone and you jump into each other's arms. Like, so I was like, I'm just a little puzzled by Devyne, just a little puzzled. I'm like, girl, it could absolutely happen. And why is London so committed to the lie? Why is he so against just admitting that, yeah, he kissed Alexis? So what, right? Devyne, you kissed Brent. You know what I mean? So it's just a big love square, and it's just a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo. But yeah, I think Devyne just needs to cut her losses, because it's pretty clear that London and Alexis want each other. And what is so convoluted is that had London just stood tall in what he wanted, and had he just took the helmet off and took the jersey off and just been clear with what he wanted, and stopped playing the field. Had he just been clear, he could have had Alexis. They could have had each other, right? But it's that ego, it's that pride, and it speaks to London seeing himself as the prize. You know what I mean? You have two people, Alexis and London, who both see each other as the prize, and that will not work, right? Someone has to submit. And a man like London, with, his, past as an NFL player and being tall and having a nice smile and nice skin and da-da-da-da, he's used to women making the move, right? He's used to just doing the bare minimum and still getting access to women. You know what I mean? And Alexis is, she's used to men coming to her, right? She's got the racially ambiguous look. She's got the, the fine textured hair. You know what I mean? She's used to men pursuing her and not having to pursue men, right? But with a man like London, who's used to being the prize, he's used to women putting in the work. So right off the bat, you have those two sort of things that are like kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum trying to come together, and it's not going to work. But regardless, there is still chemistry there, and they just need to just cut their losses and just try to work it out and be together. Again, I kind of spoke about Alexis holding London's feet to the fire, but I will say that I will commend Alexis for playing the game. I think she was one of the few women who played the game. Aisha, when she tried to play the game, was labeled aggressive and the men canceled her with the quickness. But when Alexis played the game, right, because the men had a mutual interest in her, she was allowed to, go from Jimmy to Carrie to London to Brent. So good for her. I don't know if it necessarily worked in her favor, because it seemed as though she genuinely wanted London but didn't get him. So I hate to say it, Brent, but Alexis settled for you, even though he's a great catch. But Alexis is one of the few women who played the game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure everyone doesn't necessarily like how she did what she did, but I do want to stick to my assumption that Alexis is the girl who wants to be the prize. Like, not the prize, but she wants to have all the male attention. She wants to be the only pretty brown-skinned girl in the room. You know what I mean? And it seems as though she doesn't really do well in competition with other women, right? She goes low, like how she was ready to fight Devyne. Like, girl, stop it. We are adults. At a certain age, you've got to stop physically fighting people and just learn to protect your peace. You know what I mean? So Alexis definitely gave me those kind of vibes. And I think there's a lot more to Alexis that we couldn't really dive into because we weren't allowed that deep into her life. But she definitely had Brent on a leash. She told Brent, hey, at this reunion, you're going to let me do the talking and you're going to sit there. And he said, fine. You know what I mean? So at one point during the reunion, Devyne went over to Alexis and they seemed like they were able to squash their differences, which was beautiful. That's pretty much all, ladies. Watch out for men like London who try to talk circles around you and try to not answer your questions clearly, you know what I mean, or try to deflect and things like that. Watch out for men like London, you know what I mean, especially men who are conventionally attractive. They're used to playing the game, they're used to getting their way, they're used to being able to talk themselves out of situations. So let's stop accepting those kind of like roundabout answers of, oh, if I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't, or if I, I couldn't, if I did, like, those answers are not going to suffice in 2020. But I hope that you all were able to pull something of value, something useful out of this video. Thank you so much for engaging and commenting on my content. I truly appreciate it. And we will chat next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.